Hello, I'm Jim Roberts, the host of Senior Living in Alexandria. Here we are once again in our episode for information for seniors, their friends, their families, caregivers, and others that are interested in information that might be useful to seniors. We always have a special program. This one I want to mention leads into the November speaker series. Those are starting up once again with senior services in Alexandria, and the November program is going to be especially interesting. That'll be at the Beatley Library on November 15th at 10 o'clock, and it'll be on genealogy. And by good fortune, we have with us today a specialist that can speak to many of those issues as well as a lot of other things that seniors would be interested in knowing. I have with me today Tricia Walker. She's the branch manager of local history and special collections of the Alexandria Public Library. She knows everything there is about Alexandria and all the seniors and everything else in it. So really glad to have you here, Tricia, and I'm looking forward to both the speaker series but also your kind of leading into it. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got into the history business.
Well, I was at the University of North Carolina doing my degree in a master's in library science.
Okay.
And I had someone invite me on to work on a digitization project. And that really intrigued me because we were working with older documents, 1840s on up through the 1880s. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time I'd gotten to work with documents of that age and to realize that we could digitize them and make them accessible to more people than realized that they could have access.
Tell me how Alexandria approaches what are your duties and responsibilities within the Alexandria Library?
Well, I am a branch manager specifically for local history and special collections. Mm-hmm. So I look at collection development for that particular branch, which includes looking at manuscript collections that are out there, family papers, looking at stuff that's specifically related to genealogy, and purchasing the relevant materials for the collection that will help our public.
What kind of collections do you have? What do you have?
A fairly wide range. We focus on Virginia and Alexandria, both history and genealogy. So we have a lot of books on the Civil War. We have manuscript and archival materials related to the Civil War, genealogical books, will books, deed books, a lot of microfilm that deals with the census, rare books. One of the primary rare book collections we have is from the Alexandria Library Company, which was started, it was one of the first collections developed for the community. We also help people with the large genealogical databases, so Ancestry, Heritage Quest, Family Search, also helping people with other databases that are a little bit, people aren't as aware of, such as Virginia Chronicle, which is a site where we can provide access to Virginia newspapers. Also Virginia Memory, and so that's a statewide initiative that's funded through the Library of Virginia, and they do a lot of county records and they digitize stuff through there for people to access.
Is most of that online by now, or do you still have to go to a dusty county?
Well,
courthouse?
they are tracking. They have a list of which ones they've done. There's a lot of the counties, A through C, I believe, have been done. But it's always good to go back and look at the county repositories themselves, because not everything gets done. A fair portion does for governmental records, but there are always other things that can be found.
How would you characterize the population? Does everybody know of your resources and you're swarmed with people, or is it highly selective, or are people growing in their use of your resources? How would you characterize that?
Right now, it's selective. Local historians know about us, genealogists tend to know about us because of our collections in that area. And we have people that will contact us from all across the country to do obituary searches in the Alexandria Gazette. If they've come back to this area of Virginia, then they'll touch base with us. The general community probably is not as aware of us as we would like, but we're working on that. So we're working on getting more programming together to draw people in.
Do you have any special ways of trying to reach seniors?
A lot of the seniors, they do find it difficult to get to our branch because there's no parking. or there's only street parking. But
You're at Queen Street?
yes,
Okay.
717 Queen Street. So if they use public transit, they can get to us fairly easy. But if
Okay.
they want to park, they find it more difficult. With the senior population, really working through our friends groups, just pulling in people. We find with our senior group that it really is word of mouth. Plus, with genealogy, they're more likely to look for us.
Well, and that kind of underlines the program for the speaker series. That hopefully that'll generate some interest. What's your capacity? Can you handle everything that comes at you, or is it kind of limited? Are you it?
There's four staff for the branch.
Okay.
We do have one staff person that is a professional genealogist and a librarian, so she's very, very good. Leslie Anderson is exceptional at handling genealogical requests. The rest of us, we're a little bit more jack of all trades, so we know how to help with the databases. We know what we have on site, but helping to get people into other resources, some of those can be a little bit more difficult, need to be finessed more.
Let me see how it works. So I wander into Queen Street Library, I find somebody, and I say, I'm really interested in my family's genealogy. What happens next?
Well, the first thing we would ask is, have you done like a family record sheet or a family tree? Do you have that started?
And I say, no, what's that?
And I will say, here's a copy of that form. Let's start working on that and getting that filled out. Because one of the things we find is when people come in, they blurt a bunch of names at us. And we don't know who the people are. We are frantically trying to write notes down so that we have all the relevant names and dates so that we can help them find the right resources. Whereas if they had that family sheet, that family record sheet, it would be so much easier because they could just show it to us and we could have like a checklist where we can make sure, okay, we've helped them find this through Ancestry, we've checked our archival indexes, we've checked the various indices here. And that core document really helps us to help them.
Get started. Okay. We're going to have to go to a break right now, but when we come back, let's continue that narration of how you would work with a interested party and how you would help them. Well, we're going to do our typical interlude that we've done for the last several sessions. We've got a special cooking and nutrition episode for you. I'm here with Madison Reeder, our designated chef, and she's going to, today, she's with the Inova PACE program, is professionally a nutritionist, helps a lot of seniors have good diets and observation. But the special treat for us is she's going to teach us an easy, good recipe for seniors. So Madison, what are you making for us today?
All right, so today it's Thanksgiving time, fall. I'm gonna bring in one of our favorite fall treats, and that's a pumpkin bread, and add a little bit of a twist. So today we're going to do a 1 bowl Greek yogurt pumpkin bread with some chocolate chips.
So pumpkin bread is seasonal and yogurt is all the time, and 1 bowl that's highly convenient. Let's do it.
Yeah, I love it. Less
Okay.
cleanup is always my thing. So we're just gonna dive right into this. And the first thing we're going to do in this big bowl, our wet ingredients first, and then add our dry ingredients in next.
1 bowl.
Yes, perfect. Easy cleanup. So we're gonna crack 2 eggs. I'm gonna let you do one, and I'm gonna do the other one, and then we'll just whisk them in this bowl. Perfect.
I asked her earlier if she was going to demonstrate her one crack egg technique, and she said for the show she would be safe and do too. But
That's right.
She knows how to one crack egg,
Oh,
one-handed.
well, yeah, like I said, we're just better safe than sorry, you know.
Yeah.
And then if you want to
Oh,
give
you want
them a
to whisk?
whisk,
All right, here,
sure,
I
and
can do
I'll get
that.
the next thing ready. The next thing we're going to add is about a ½ cup of Greek yogurt. And this Greek yogurt is what is really going to kind of bring everything together. So this recipe doesn't have any oil, no fat, no butter, nothing like
Okay.
that. This Greek yogurt is going to add that extra texture, that creaminess to this bread.
All
So
right.
we're going to add that right in there. And Greek yogurt has lots of great health benefits. It's got some protein, some probiotics in there, and that'll be great for this recipe as well because it'll help to keep you full a little bit longer than a regular piece of
Okay.
pumpkin bread would. Kind of fight those holiday cravings off a little bit extra.
That's our motto, good for you and good tasting.
Absolutely. So we can whisk that up a little bit
Oh,
as
you
well.
want that all right?
Yes, absolutely. And then
All
the
right.
next thing after that is we're going to take some pureed pumpkin. Just the pumpkin that you just buy at the store. Nothing too crazy about it. But we want to make sure we get the pureed pumpkin, not the pureed pumpkin pie mix.
Oh, yeah.
That's really important to differentiate because we're going to add our own spices in. So with this pureed pumpkin, it has lots of great health benefits to that as well. Pumpkin, that bright
More-
orange color that it has,
Yeah.
that means it's full of vitamin A.
Vitamin A, okay.
Absolutely. And vitamin A is great for our seniors and all of us really because it's really good for our eyes, and vitamin A helps our cells to stay healthy and turn over. So all the things that we do in our regular day-to-day, it really helps to keep those cells nice
Do
and
that
strong.
or you want to wait?
You can certainly mix that
All
up.
right,
You want to mix
here we
all
go.
those wet ingredients up first.
Okay.
You're doing an excellent job. with
Well,
that.
thank you very much.
You are very welcome.
I'm in the hands of an expert.
You are very welcome.
Oh, this looks good.
Yes, very good. The next thing we're going to do after that's all mixed, that looks perfect,
Okay.
is we're going to add in a little bit of vanilla extract.
Okay.
Just a teaspoon of that. And that just kind of adds a really nice aroma.
Oh, yes.
Always need that vanilla extract. And then we're going to add some spices. We're going to add some cinnamon, which has some great health benefits as well.
Okay.
A lot of studies are showing that cinnamon can help to keep our blood pressure or our blood sugar rather in check. Keep those glycemic controls.
So if
where
I
they
have the
should
whole
be.
jar on.
Well, I don't know about that. Then
All
we
right.
might have a
Just
problem.
wondered.
But this is really great for our blood sugar.
Okay.
So we're going to add a whole tablespoon of that, which seems like a lot. But since, again, it's just a plain pureed pumpkin, that'll
Okay.
be really lovely. And we can mix.
Got more to come?
Yep.
Of course you do.
Yes, absolutely. We need all the flavors in there. And that Greek yogurt, if you've ever tasted Greek yogurt by itself, it tastes a little bit like sour cream. So what all these different spices will do is kind of cover that up. Then with the flavor of the pumpkin, you don't even notice that it's in
Okay.
there, but it still keeps the
All right.
pumpkin bread tasting just like your traditional pumpkin
What do you
bread.
have there?
Next, we're going to add some cloves, just a
Clove.
little bit. We're going to do about 1/4 teaspoon of cloves.
Okay.
There we go. And then you can also add nutmeg, whatever spices really speak to
Okay.
you this holiday season are what you can add, but that's what we're going to stick with for the moment. The next thing we're going to add is a teaspoon of baking soda.
Okay.
Help that bread rise a little bit once
All right.
once we get it in the oven. Excellent. And then the next thing we want to make sure that we're adding as well is just a little bit of salt.
Okay.
Just a teaspoon.
Smells good.
Great. I'm glad.
Yeah.
It'll smell even better once it's all done.
I know it. No,
Excellent.
is that it?
So we can mix those spices
All right, here we
and
go.
that baking soda together.
Okay.
Now it's really,
Give the
you can
art-
really smell it, which is really nice.
Yeah. Oops. Got to scrape the side of the bowl a
Yep,
little
that's
bit here.
very important. Then we're going to slowly add the flour, just little by little, so that we don't, with bread, we don't want to overmix it once the flour gets in there, because that's how we get the holes and the lumps in our bread. So we'll just add a little bit at a time.
Should I do this gently?
Yep, very,
Gently.
that's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's getting more bread-like.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's
Thicker.
not quite Yep, now it's not quite so watery. So
Okay.
it's just 1 1/4 cup of this whole wheat flour. And that's the next thing I really want to mention, is that this whole wheat flour does change the texture and the taste of this bread a little bit, but because of all the flavors of the pumpkin, the chocolate chips we're going to add, and all the spices, you don't notice that change. And whole wheat flour has a lot of really excellent health benefits to it as well.
What if you don't happen to have whole wheat flour? Could you substitute?
You can absolutely substitute it for just your regular white flour, and that's perfectly fine. But if
Okay.
you can find this used to be something that was really hard to find at the stores, but now is much more common because a lot of people are finding that because of the health benefits, it's really
Okay.
really quite a simple thing to add to their
getting
desserts.
thick.
Yes, it is. You could be a dietitian. That looks great.
I don't know about dietitian. I can be replaced by a mixer machine, but that's another story.
That's perfect. And then we'll add this last little bit
Okay.
here. Do you want me to take over for the last piece?
Oh no,
Powering through?
I'm in the home stretch.
Excellent. And then add a little extra flavor, and this is something that's optional. We certainly don't have to add this, are some semi-sweet chocolate chips. You can add as much or as little as you'd like, but I think more chocolate chips is better. About 1/3 of a cup is what's recommended.
Let me give it one more. It's thick. One more. Pat it down and mix. Okay.
That's
I
perfect.
think we're ready.
And we'll add those in, and then we can stir that piece.
Okay. Stir those in.
Yep.
Do you want to
Sure.
get
we
it to
can-
where you need it?
Yep, and we can trade it off with this
let me
spatula here.
Clear that out. It's very thick.
Excellent.
There you go.
Thank
Okay.
you very much. And then once it's all ready, just as so, we can add it to our pan. And then we're gonna bake it at 350 for about 40 minutes.
350 at 40 minutes.
Yep, and because of the consistency of this, because of that Greek yogurt, you notice how thick it was. What we really want to do is make sure while it's in the oven, we're keeping a really close eye on it. Just based on everybody's oven is a little bit different. So I checked mine around 30 minutes to make sure it wasn't getting too well done.
How do
Want
you
it to be nice
check?
and moist.
Stick a toothpick in it?
Yep, so very
Tradition?
quickly as to not release all the heat from the oven, just open the oven up with an oven mitt on, pull the tray out that the baking tin is on, and just stick a toothpick right in the middle of
Okay.
it. If it comes out clean, it's ready to go. So mine was, the recipe recommends 40 to 45 minutes, but mine was ready a little bit closer to about 38 minutes.
So, okay.
So I checked it around
All
the
right.
30-minute mark. That's my best tip when you make something with Greek yogurt, sometimes because the proteins pull apart as it's cooking from that Greek yogurt. Since it's so protein dense, we want to check it a little bit earlier so that we don't lose that moisture that we know our pumpkin bread
All
very
right.
well for.
All right.
All right, so then that's all there is to it. We just got our one bowl with our pumpkin ingredients, and then when it's finished, it comes out looking quite like this.
We didn't have to spend 45
I
minutes.
know.
That's miraculous.
It's just like magic.
Oh,
So
and it looks good. And it smells good.
thank you. Thank
That's
you very
wonderful.
much. And we can certainly give that a try if that's something that you'd like to do.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Yes, of course.
absolutely. So
Do you,
absolutely, please.
You're
break
gonna
that
have
piece
have
off.
some.
I certainly will.
Break
I
off a piece?
can never say no to pumpkin bread.
That's good. Well, we're back, and I'm here with Tricia Walker, the branch manager at the Special Collections and Historic. What do you do next?
Well, we see how far back they've managed to trace. For example, they might need some of the books that we have on display here. So there are immigration records that you can track where somebody came from in Europe and what port they came into. For people that might have Native American ancestry, there's the ones here on the Cherokee blood.
Okay.
And that ties back to the Dawes rolls. There's also some stuff we have for Irish and Scottish.
Okay.
And it just really depends on ethnicity. So we also have an index for slave births.
Okay.
Those
That's a tough one.
That one is very tough. A lot of people don't realize that if you're Native American or if you're African American, your genealogy is so very difficult to trace.
Yeah. And those are many generations ago, so there's no word of mouth except maybe family rumor. Which
Exactly.
Is not, sometimes that works well. So.
And what we find, especially with the individuals who have ancestors who were slaves, sometimes we have to figure out where to send them to for plantation records.
Oh,
So
okay.
they have to check through the surname of the slaveholder.
But they don't have to physically do that. You can access all these sources of information from the library are available to you, and you can say, this might work, this county, this record, this, and then it would be up to them to
There's-
follow through. You could provide assistance as best
And
as you could.
as we proceed with digitization in the library and archival worlds, that gets better and better. We have a lot of stuff through Ancestry. We have a lot of stuff on microfilm. Occasionally, there might be a need to still go to some of the records, say Southern Historical Collection, which is down in North Carolina. They have plantation records that range from Virginia all the way
That's
down through
wonderful.
Mississippi.
That's terrific. Okay.
So,
Census records, I think.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I have to ask, you've got a book there. What is that?
yes. This is the St. John's Academy Register.
Okay.
And the reason we brought this was just to sort of show people what type of information is in here. This is actually the 1863 volume. And so you have the students' names, you have where they were born, and then you also have the parents' name and where they lived in Alexandria.
I see.
So sometimes just being able to, you might have the child's name, suddenly now you have the parent's name too.
Okay.
And that can, depending on where they came from and such, that can be difficult to find. There's one individual in here, Scotland, some from England. So at least if you can get the parent's name from this, that makes it easier to
starting
jump
point.
across.
Okay. One of the things that occurs to me, you've got a problem with Native Americans and African Americans, but now, you know, in Alexandria, we've got an incredible mix of nationalities, ethnic groups, background. Is there a record of those that is, I mean, this, you know, if you wanted to go back, instead of 150 years or 250 years, if you wanted to go back 50 years, you could begin to pull that information out, or does that begin to drop off?
It begins to drop off very
I
much
see.
so. We're finding that we really need to figure out how to latch on to and draw out from these communities that information. We're just really now starting to focus on those groups and try to figure out how we can get at that. But it's difficult.
Well, and I think one thing that happens in the era, because of the digital tools we have, you would not find a book like that, either handwritten or even access to it. It's in somebody's, if it exists at all, it's a spreadsheet, probably in private hands. If they donate it to a collection, maybe you would have access to it.
Yes, and so that's one thing we need to work on making people more aware of is electronic records. So your spreadsheets, your image files, all of those types of things are things that we are interested in. And as a profession, we're just now really figuring out how to handle those and how to describe them so that they remain findable.
How, if you had advice to someone that's interested in genealogy, their family history, local history, whatever, what sorts of techniques would you suggest just in terms of making it available or keeping it somehow?
Well, one of the terms you'll hear librarians use is metadata. And that's
Metadata, okay.
it's information about an object. And so with a lot of image files, you can actually open up in certain types of software. For example, with image files, you could open up in Adobe Bridge, which is a free software,
Okay.
and you can drop in information. So you can say, okay, I have this image, these are the individuals in it in a keyword section, and then that way that information travels with that image file wherever it goes.
Okay. Is there an increasing interest in this among seniors, or is it at any age, or it's
We're seeing more of, I would say, more of an interest amongst seniors. I think when people are younger, they're more interested in establishing their own identity. But they hit a certain point where they suddenly realize, oh, I need to understand my context, my life, my ancestors to understand what I need to hand on to my kids.
if I wanted to burden my children or even grandchildren with what I think was important about my life or my times, would the library be able to assist me in techniques of how to do that? They may not be interested, but I certainly would be, and I'd love to pass it on.
Yeah, I think that's one of the areas we need to look at doing more programming in and helping people to figure out how to leave that documentation for the next generation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's, how do you acquire collections? How do you make the decision to acquire them, and what's the process? Say my wife views what I have down the basement as junk. I view it as valuable historic archives. We'll make that decision between us. However, if I did decide this is something that I think might be of interest or worthy, how do you go about, not mine, but somebody that's of historic importance?
Send us an email, call us. We love to hear about pockets of material like that, because a lot of times we find people don't think it's relevant, but when we get our hands on it and realize what's there, it's something that we know the general public can use in different ways to establish lineage and history of the area. So we have a collection scope for our materials. So Alexandria, Virginia history, and genealogy.
Oh, you mean criteria okay.
And so we'll look and see if it fits within that. And if it does, and you're willing to donate it, we would gladly take it off your hands.
Do you ever purchase? Are there properties or collections that are valuable enough that you would, I know your budget's
Yes.
extremely limited, but...
Yes, we do consider purchasing stuff. We're a little bit firmer on our assessment of that stuff, that it really has to fit the scope, because we generally have to put together a coalition of private donors to help us purchase stuff like that.
And are there other services for seniors that you can think of that, in terms of helping them, one, to build on their interest in it, but secondly, specific techniques? Are there history clubs? Are there genealogy clubs? Are there on-site, sources of information?
We, our person who does genealogy on staff, Leslie, she does do programs quarterly, and that will help train people into how to do genealogy. The Beatley branch, or Beatley Central, also has an individual who does monthly genealogical programming. And so she helps a lot with the online stuff.
Okay.
Let me think, what else? I know I had another thought on that, but...
What's the most interesting thing you have in your collection? What really, where'd you get excited?
I actually love our glass plates. So that's it's an older glass plate negative format.
Oh, really?
And so those images generally run from about 1850. They can go as late as 1920, but generally not in this area of the country. And to me, those are just really fun, because you have this plate of glass and you have this image on them. We have one particular image that's actually of an African-American family from about 1870.
Was that an early form of photography, I guess?
Yeah.
I've heard of glass plates, but I never thought about it very hard. What's the most valuable thing that you can think of?
We have a medical dictionary that was associated with George Washington's doctor. So
Really?
we have that one.
Okay.
That actually stays in a safe off-site.
I can imagine.
So,
Okay.
but that's our most expensive.
Well, we're almost running out of time, so I'm sure there's many other things we could get into. But I do want to underline the fact that the November 15th speaker series, in which much longer discussion of genealogy and what the library is doing to work on that. So there's not enough time for history. I don't know if that's a proper thing to say, but anyway. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate it. And those of you with family, friends, etc., that we're trying to reach, she's an incredible resource, and get in touch with her at the Queen Street Library. Tricia, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.